city hummed with its usual chaos as dusk settled over the skyline, painting the concrete jungle in hues of amber and violet. In the heart of downtown, nestled between towering skyscrapers and the relentless buzz of traffic, stood the Arboretum, a glass-domed oasis of greenery that felt like a secret whispered amidst the urban sprawl. Its arched ceiling glimmered faintly under the sodium glow of streetlights, and inside, a labyrinth of winding paths snaked through exotic trees, blooming flowers, and a network of softly glowing lanterns that hung like fireflies frozen in time. This was no ordinary park. It was a sanctuary within the city limits, a place where people came to escape, to dream, or, as it turned out, to unravel. Before we jump in, real quick, most of you who enjoy these videos still haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, please take a second to hit that button. It helps with channel growth so much and means more than you know. And if you're already subscribed, thank you. Now, let's begin. Clara Hartley, 32, with chestnut hair that cascaded in loose waves down her back, stepped into the Arboretum that evening, her heels clicking softly against the stone path. She wore a tailored navy blazer over a cream silk blouse, her attire a testament to her life as a meticulous architect who designed the very skyscrapers that loomed outside. Her husband, Daniel, was at home, likely hunched over his laptop, drafting legal briefs for a case that had consumed him for months. They'd been married 7 years, 7 years of quiet mornings, shared coffee, and a love that had settled into something comfortable, predictable, like the rhythm of the city itself. Tonight, Clara wasn't here for peace. She carried a restlessness in her chest, a flicker of something wild she couldn't name. She told Daniel she had a late meeting with a client, a half-truth that slipped from her lips too easily. Instead, she was meeting Elias, a sculptor she'd met 3 months ago at an art gallery opening. His hands, rough and stained with clay, had brushed hers as they reached for the same glass of wine. And from that moment, something had shifted. Their conversations had started innocently texts about art, late-night calls about inspiration. But they'd grown into something heavier, something that pulled her here, to the Arboretum, under the pretense of discussing a collaborative project. Air inside was thick, with the scent of jasmine and damp earth. Clara followed the path toward the central pavilion, a circular clearing surrounded by a shallow moat where koi fish darted beneath lily pads. The lanterns here glowed brighter, casting golden reflections across the water. Elias was already there, leaning against a wooden bench, his dark hair tousled, his leather jacket slung carelessly over one shoulder. He was 35, broad-shouldered, with eyes that seemed to see through her in a way Daniel never had. "Clara," he said, his voice low, carrying a warmth that made her stomach twist. "You came." "I said I would," she replied, smoothing her blazer, though her fingers trembled slightly. "I wanted to see your sketches for the project." He smirked, pulling a sketchbook from his bag, but his eyes lingered on her longer than necessary. "Sure, the project." He sat on the bench, the sketchbook open between them, pages filled with rough lines of a sculpture, a twisting figure of a woman reaching for the sky, her form both fragile and fierce. It was beautiful, raw, and somehow it felt like he'd drawn her. They talked about dimensions, materials, the way it might look installed in the Arboretum's east wing. But the conversation drifted, his hand brushed hers as he turned a page, and she didn't pull away. The air grew charged, the lanterns flickering as if they sensed the shift. "I've been thinking about you," Elias said suddenly, his voice cutting through the hum of cicadas. "More than I should." Clara's breath caught. She should have stood up, walked away, reminded herself of Daniel's quiet trust. But she didn't. "I've thought about you too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned closer, and she didn't stop him. Their lips met, tentative at first, then hungry, a collision of longing that drowned out the world beyond the glass dome. Her blazer slipped off her shoulder, his hands found her waist, and for a moment, the Arboretum wasn't just a sanctuary, it was a crucible, forging something forbidden beneath its glowing lanterns. But this wasn't where the story twisted. Infidelity, after all, often follows a predictable script. Stolen kisses, secret meetings, the inevitable guilt. Clara's betrayal took a stranger turn, one born not in the heat of passion, but in the cold light of something else entirely. 2 weeks later, Clara returned to the Arboretum alone. Elias had texted her that morning, asking to meet again, but she'd ignored him. The guilt had begun to settle, a stone in her chest that grew heavier with each passing day. She'd gone home to Daniel that first night, kissed him goodnight, and pretended nothing had changed. But it had. She saw Elias in the shadows of their apartment, felt his touch in the quiet moments. She hated herself for it, and yet she didn't. At night, she wore a simple gray sweater, her hair pulled back, as if simplicity could absolve her. The Arboretum was quieter now, the lanterns dimmer, the air cooler with the onset of autumn. She wandered deeper into the maze of paths, past the pavilion, toward a secluded corner where a single weeping willow draped its branches over a stone bench. She sat, staring at the ground, trying to untangle the mess inside her. That's when she heard the footsteps. Clara. She froze. It wasn't Elias' voice, it was Daniel's. Her husband stepped into the lantern light, his coat unbuttoned, his tie loosened. He carried a small paper bag, the kind from the bakery down the street. "Daniel, what are you?" Her voice cracked, panic rising. "I followed you," he said simply, sitting beside her. His tone wasn't angry, just tired. "You've been distant, I thought. I don't know what I thought. I saw you leave tonight, and I couldn't stay home wondering." Clara's mind raced. Had he seen her with Elias? Did he know? She opened her mouth to lie, to weave another excuse, but he held up a hand. "I brought you something," he said, pulling a cinnamon roll from the bag, her favorite. "I thought maybe we could just sit here, together." The gesture was so small, so Daniel, that it broke her. Tears welled in her eyes, and she took the roll, her hands shaking. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. He looked at her, really looked, and she saw something flicker in his eyes, understanding, maybe, or suspicion. "What's going on, Clara?" She could have confessed then. She could have told him about Elias, the kiss, the pull she couldn't explain. But she didn't. Instead, she leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder, the cinnamon roll warm in her lap. They sat in silence, the lanterns swaying overhead, and for a moment, she let herself believe they could stay like that forever. But the Arboretum wasn't done with her yet. Next evening, Clara returned, drawn back like a moth to a flame. Elias was waiting, this time near a glass bridge that spanned a narrow stream. He didn't ask why she'd ignored him, he just pulled her close, and she let him. The affair deepened, kisses turned to whispered promises, touches lingered in hidden corners. The Arboretum became their world, its paths a map of their secret. Then came the night that changed everything. Clara arrived late, her hair damp from a sudden rain, wearing a burgundy coat that clung to her frame. Elias was packing near the pavilion, his expression tense. "We need to talk," he said, his voice sharp. "What's wrong?" she asked, stepping closer. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "I recorded us, last week, by the bridge." Clara's blood ran cold. "You what?" "I didn't mean to. I was testing a new mic for a project, and it picked up everything. I was going to delete it, but," he trailed off, his eyes dark. "I listened to it, over and over, and I realized I don't want to let you go." She stared at him, disbelief warring with anger. "Delete it, now." "I will," he said quickly. "But I need you to choose, Clara, me or him." The ultimatum hung between them, heavy as the humid air. She thought of Daniel, the cinnamon roll, his quiet presence, the life they'd built. Then she thought of Elias, the fire, the chaos, the way he made her feel alive. She didn't answer, just turned and walked away, the lanterns casting long shadows behind her. Days passed. Clara avoided the arboretum, Elias, even Daniel's searching glances. She threw herself into work, sketching designs late into the night, trying to drown out the noise in her head. But the recording gnawed at her. What if Elias kept it? What if he used it? She went back one last time, on a foggy night when the city felt like a dream. The arboretum was nearly empty, the lanterns muted by the mist. Elias wasn't there, but someone else was Daniel. He stood by the willow, holding a lantern he'd taken from a hook, its light illuminating his face. "I found this place in your sketches," he said, his voice steady. "You've been coming here a lot." "Daniel, I don't know what's happening," he cut in, "but I know you're slipping away. And I'm not going to beg you to stay. I just wanted to see this place, to understand." He set the lantern down and walked past her, leaving her alone under the willow. She sank to the bench, the fog curling around her, and realized she'd lost them both, not to confrontation or confession, but to the slow unraveling of her own choices. The arboretum stood silent, its lanterns flickering like witnesses to her betrayal. A beautiful prison in the heart of the city where love had twisted into something she couldn't hold.